Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Justice League issue 17. Guys, before you watch this video, you might want to check out my previous video that I did on the Justice League, which basically reviewed the Justice League Annual #1, which also was a quick review of Justice League 15 and 16, as well as Justice League Annual #1. It sort of explains all that's really gone on, and because a lot's happening here. Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV are doing a wonderful job building an epic story. It's a little bit convoluted, but it's worth maybe putting the time in to figure out what's going on. This issue here focuses on Martian Manhunter and Lex Luthor. I wish I had a more updated version of Lex Luthor, but I only got the Golden Age version here. But at least I got the Justice League animated Martian Manhunter. In any event, what is great about this particular issue is that I really like the characterization that Scott Snyder does for Lex Luthor. One of the things that disappointed me a little bit was Lex Luthor. I sort of liked him when he was somewhat of an anti-hero, so when he became really a bad guy again by embracing the idea of doom, when he sort of, with that doorknob that he got from his father that sort of had an aspect of the totality in it, which basically prophesized to him or had him believe after his trip to the future that the universe is destined for doom and that doom and gloom is the universe's natural state. Lex Luthor's belief in that, his firm belief that the future of the universe is doom and that the nature of the universe is doom itself, basically really pushed him toward embracing the dark side and sort of abandoning any pretense of him being sort of a hero like he was previous, namely he was even a member of the Justice League. Now, what is great here is that apparently this issue reveals a secret past that both Martian Manhunter and Lex Luthor have with each other. Lex Luthor and Martian Manhunter knew each other as children, but they didn't know it because their memory was erased. Now, what we do know from what was revealed in Justice League Annual #1 is that when Lex Luthor's father, Lionel Luthor, essentially captured Starman back in 1988, they found within Starman aspects of the totality, and they wanted to study it. What Lionel Luthor also did was that they basically plucked Martian Manhunter out of time, out of an attempt to try to recreate members of Perpetua's great army. The species that makes up Perpetua's great army is a species that is a combination of human and Martian DNA. When Perpetua was encased behind the source wall by unknown beings that we're unaware of at this point, when she was encased behind the source wall, so was her great army, and essentially those aspects of Perpetua's great army that still managed to avoid being trapped in the behind the source wall, they were basically split into two races, the human race and the Martian race. So Perpetua's great army is essentially made up of Martian and human DNA. Lionel Luthor essentially plucked Martian Manhunter out of time from before Mars was destroyed through the Mars curse, which was a telepathic disease that wiped out all the Martians. Now, the purpose of that was to study young John Jones and to see if they could maybe combine human and Martian DNA. And basically, the human equivalent, or the human counterpart to John Jones, was essentially Lex Luthor. Now, Lex Luthor, a young Lex Luthor, was actually used, and was used by Lionel, his father, to try to befriend young John Jones. So you had a young Lex Luthor who went by the name of Albie. He called himself Albie, but he basically befriended Martian Manhunter to try to get him to cooperate with the people, to cooperate with the experiments that were being done on Martian Manhunter, all with the goal to try to recreate that new species of Perpetua's great army, or so we believe. Now, what's interesting is this all happened in the past, and ultimately the challenges of the unknown, who we know from the pages of Metal, the challenges of the unknown became aware of what Lionel Luthor was doing, and they wanted to, they put a stop to it, because they knew basically the challenges of the unknown want to obviously prevent, along with any other rational person in the multiverse, they want to prevent Perpetua being unleashed in our universe. So the challenges of the unknown shut down Lionel Luthor's operation, erased the memory from Lionel Luthor in terms of what Lionel Luthor was doing, and also ultimately erase the memory from young Lex Luthor, who basically went by the name of Alexander at that time. He was actually Albie, a young Lex Luthor. The memory of the experience of knowing a young Martian Manhunter, a young John Jones, was erased from Lex Luthor's mind. This issue was basically Martian Manhunter taking Lex Luthor and inviting him to Mars, and basically having that conversation with Lex by saying, look, Lex, listen to me. We have a connection here. This Perpetua is not what you think she is. If you release Perpetua, it's going to be doom and gloom for the universe, and it's not doom that you're going to be able to control. You're wrong. Please listen to me. We're all part of a pawn. You're just a pawn in a larger scheme. And this is what Martian Manhunter is trying to say to Lex. And he wanted Lex to experience what he was experiencing on Mars. And the reason why they're on Mars is because there's creatures on Mars called the Quonars, which sort of heighten a sense of regret that people have. And how you deal with the Quonars, and exactly how you deal with them, if you're lucky, you can get rid of some regrets that you have. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's it in a nutshell. In any event, the regret that John Jones has is the trauma that he experienced as a young boy, that memory being returned to him because of his experiences over the last how many months in the pages of Justice League. John Jones' memory is returned because the Martian Keep gave him back his memories on Thanagar Prime, and John Jones wanted to give Lex Luthor restore his memories back so that Lex Luthor could remember when he was a young boy the experience that both he and John Jones had. Because when Lex Luthor was young and he called himself Albie, a young Lex Luthor saved John Jones' life. He saved Martian Manhunter when he was a young boy. Because his father, Lionel Luthor, they were going to kill him when they were done experimenting on him. But a young Lex Luthor by the name of Albie, he basically sabotaged his father's plans, and ultimately saved Martian Manhunter's life. Now that's interesting. So now that Lex Luthor remembers that, John Jones is really hoping that got through to Lex, so that Lex can understand that, look, that's your regret. You were used when you were younger. I was used. There's more at stake here. We don't know all about Perpetua as much as we think we do. This is a bad thing. And this, I think Scott Snyder is planting the seeds of Lex Luthor possibly moving away from the dark side. Is it possible that he managed to reach Lex Luthor? Now, Batman asks Martian Manhunter at the end, basically, did you get through to him? And, Batman is certainly hoping, and Batman asks Martian Manhunter, did it work? And Martian Manhunter says, I don't know. My only hope is that some part of what I said got through to him. And that's the hope. And if part of what the Martian Manhunter told Lex Luthor about their experiences when they were children, if that did get through to him, that might be one of the things that helps the Justice League ultimately defeat the Legion of Doom, by actually having Luthor himself ultimately betray the Legion of Doom, betray Brainiac, and maybe have one step up on Perpetua. Because Lex Luthor states in this issue that he's close to awakening Perpetua. Because remember, at the end of Justice League Annual number 1, the Legion of Doom sabotaged the Justice League and Starman's attempt to seal up the crack in the source wall, and ultimately the source wall was completely destroyed. So it's not just cracked now, it's completely destroyed. Perpetua was completely released. Perpetua is in a coma-like state, in the possession of her coma-like body is in the possession of the Legion of Doom, and Luthor admits that he's close to resurrecting her. And does he want to do that? Is he going to carry through with that? We don't know. But this issue ends with Lex Luthor grabbing that doorknob that his father gave him, that was hidden at the Legionnaires Club that his father was a member of, and basically saying the word Shane, which was the Martian word for expressing your regret, I believe. The word Shane that is used by Martian Manhunter that he informs Lex Luthor of. Essentially, Martian Manhunter says that as Martians, they would come together and take bad memories from the great mind, their most painful memories, their regrets, and they would chant the word Shane and give them to the ground where the Quonars could feed on them. So the Quonars, these creatures that are on Mars, feed on regret, feed on shame. So one way to purge yourself of regret and negative emotions was to chant the word Shane, and to purge yourself of those negative emotions and that regret. And these Quonar creatures on Mars would basically eat that shame. So it was actually a mentally healthy way for the Martians to thrive and to live, by helping them purge themselves of bad and negative memories. And that's essentially why Martian Manhunter took Lex to Mars, so that they could do that. And in any event, it's a really good issue. This slows down the story that has been progressing so far, and we needed it to slow down a bit, because we needed to catch our breaths, especially after the roller coaster ride of issues 14, 15, 16 and Justice League Annual #1. And this really gives us that. It's an emotional issue. It gets us into the mind of Martian Manhunter and Lex Luthor. It humanizes Lex Luthor a little bit more. It suggests that there might be some hope for Lex Luthor yet. He might change his mind. You never know. What's he going to do? Anyways, this is a really great comic. I quite enjoy this. This is one of my favorites in a while. Scott Snyder and Jim Shung on the art, and Murray on the colors. Good stuff. Guys, tell me what you think of Justice League issue 17. And until next time, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. And until next time, Comic Boom out.